There are a ton of devices these days that make use of a micro SD card. Smartphones, dash cams, drones, and GoPros to name a few. However, not all micro SD cards are created equally. In some situations, the wrong micro SD card can even hinder the full potential of your device. Let's dig deeper. For this video, we'll be using the PNY Elite micro SD cards. They come in various storage sizes. I have the 32, 64 and 128GB variants. The cards are advertised to have a maximum read speed of 100 megabytes per second. Besides that, you can expect this card to handle extreme temperatures, shocks, magnetic force and water. Lastly, as with any micro SD card, you'll also get an SD card adapter. If you've ever taken a closer look at the micro SD card packaging or even the micro SD card itself, you'll often see a ton of wordings that probably don't make sense to you. Those are all memory card standards that are actually very important. Let's take a closer look at the labels on the PNY Elite micro SD. Starting from the top, you have the storage size, which is self-explanatory. Next is the maximum read speed. I say maximum because this is the advertised read speed and not the actual read speed in real-world usage. Next to that is the speed class. In this case, it's 10, which is 10 megabytes per second. Lastly is the UHS speed class. In this case, it's 1, which also indicates 10 megabytes per second. Confusing? Quite. Especially since the speed class and UHS speed class are pointing to the same read speed. A general rule of thumb is that the number usually indicates the write speed. So speed class 2 is 2 megabytes per second and UHS speed class 3 is 30 megabytes per second. Some cards also have a video speed class rating indicated by a V followed by the read speed. The video class speed is a very important number to me because it is the minimum sequential read speed of the card. In other words, it's a more real-world figure of the read speed. I have a V60 card that I used for the Sony a7S III. The reason I bought this card is because the camera needed the V60 speed in order to record 4K content at a higher bitrate. I actually wanted to get a V90 card, but it's pretty expensive at around $159 or about 700 ringgit for a 128GB card. Ouch. If you're a content creator recording videos in 4K, I would highly suggest a card with a minimum of 32GB with speed class 10, UHS class 3, and video class speed 30. Now that we've gone through all the card standards, let's run a speed test on these 3 cards. You'll be surprised to know that despite them being the same standard, the storage size also sometimes affects the performance of the card. In theory, all these cards should have very similar results. Let's see. For the benchmark, I'll be running the Crystal Disk Mark test on my Windows desktop and the Blackmagic Disk Speed test on my 14-inch M1 Pro MacBook. The Windows benchmark will provide you with the results closest to the advertised speeds, whereas the Mac benchmark will give you a more realistic reading of the card performance, which I think is more important for content creators. On Crystal Disk Mark, all cards scored close to 98 megabytes per second for read speed. That's great because it's pretty close to the 100 megabytes per second advertised read speed. However, you can see that there is some difference between the write speed. As the storage capacity increases, the write speed also increases. We can see the same trend for the Blackmagic Disk Speed test. All cards scored close to 90 megabytes per second for read speed. As mentioned, this benchmark is a more accurate value from real-world usage. For the write speed, it also increases with the storage capacity. In fact, it's pretty close to the results from the Crystal Disk Mark benchmark. Despite having some minor differences in speeds, you'll be happy to know that these cards are blazing fast for the general user. Across the board, all cards can comfortably record 4K video files in the H.265 format. In my case, I used the 32GB card in my dash cam because it records in standard definition only. The 64GB card is currently in my drone. The PNY Elite 64GB microSD card has no problem recording beautiful video up to 8K resolution. Lastly, and you might be surprised by this, the 128GB card is in my drone controller. Now, some of you might be wondering why it's not the other way around, the 128GB in my drone and the 64GB in my controller. One thing I've learned from creating content over the last few years is that if I use a large memory card, I tend to keep the footage in there and not exporting it out. Having a mid-sized memory card for this drone and even this camera recording right now forces me to continuously clear out the cards. It's a good habit that I've slowly built over the years, something for you guys to consider when looking at memory card sizes. Alright guys, that is it for this video. I hope it will help you make an informed decision on your next memory card purchase. If you want a simple no-brainer card that will perform in any situation, the purchase links for the PNY Elite microSD card will be in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye!